Ted Cruz got in trouble recently when he went on a podcast with Tucker Carlson and couldn't really, articulate his point about I will bless those who bless Israel and I will curse those who curse Israel. And I think that's very indicative of people in the Protestant church, in the evangelical church specifically. They have this kind of drilled into them, but they don't know where it comes from. They don't know what it means. They don't understand any scriptures tied to it or really what to do with it. And we covered that. I talked about that with Andrew Wilson when that happened. Well, he was at the Christians United for Israel conference recently, and anti-Semitism was brought up, but not from people on the left, from people on the right. And here's what he had to say.
The danger that I want to highlight to you tonight is not anti-Semitism on the left. It is anti-Semitism on the right. And I'm here to tell you in the last 6 months, I have seen anti-Semitism rising on the right in a way I have never seen it in my entire life. Listen, CUFI is extraordinary. The work that CUFI does is desperately, desperately needed. But I'm here to tell you, the church is asleep right now.
The church is asleep. So CUFI or CUFI, I think CUFI is more fun to say, but either way, that is, what is it? Citizens United for Israel,
Yeah.
Or is that, did I get it all right?
Yeah, that's it.
Nice. It's John Hagee's thing. I think there's like 10 million-ish members or some giant number of members here in the United States. And he's Ted Cruz, who on the Tucker Carlson podcast said he went to become a senator, to be the staunchest supporter of Israel and in the Senate. His words, not mine. Go look it up. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting a strong relationship with an ally. That's fine. But when you make that kind of your whole thing, people rightly ask questions like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I thought it was to really support and represent the people of Texas, where you're a senator from, one of the senators. And it turned out that he got into a lot of trouble for that. But I just thought you might have a comment or two on this. The thing that stuck out to me the most as a Protestant, saying that the church is asleep to anti-Semitism, is one of the most crazy things that I think I've ever heard in my life. I think the church is fully awakened to that and fully on guard and to some degree oversaturated, brainwashed, whatever you want to say, about the amount of support that Israel needs from specifically the church. Like I don't see this as an area of concern that the church is asleep on right now. Do you agree?
The blood moon pies of Israel.
Oh boy.
John Hagee.
Blood moon pies? What is that?
Well, he always talks about the blood moons.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah.
my joke is because he's a sort of portly character, the blood
So
moon
it's the
pies.
okay, now see, they just need
See,
a
my
little
joke's like
context.
they take
There's layers.
30 seconds to
Yeah.
settle in.
Which is what you want your jokes to do.
Like the blood moon, like the moon pie in the gut. Like it takes time to settle in. But yeah. So this is a crazy one. I mean, we cover this both from the Orthodox patristic view of the nation state of Israel, the modern nation state of Israel from its founders. I've done a lot of research on reading Moses Hess, Theodor Herzl, Chaim Weizmann, the original sort of Zionist founders. They had a socialist utopian idea. It was not really religious, maybe kind of just a little bit. So the modern nation of Israel is a complex thing that was put there by the British Empire.
Right.
It's a British imperial outpost to be a strategic arm of what they wanted at that time when they carved to the Middle East, the Sykes-Picot Agreement and all that.
Yeah. And to be fair, they promised it to the Arabs as well.
Correct.
They would overthrow the Ottomans and a little bit to the French, but nobody really cares about the French anyway. So just to be clear,
So
they didn't just screw one people group; they screwed kind of everybody.
It's super complex with a history and nuanced, and of course, this is a domain that nobody wants to be nuanced in. It's just like you picking the black guy or the white guy, right?
Exactly.
Spy versus spy, right? Black or white. But no, there's not in geopolitics good guy, bad guy. It's all nuance and power relations. It's realpolitik. So from the Orthodox perspective, the Orthodox Church is the third largest landholder in Israel. So obviously we wouldn't want it to be annihilated in
or caliphate,
or we don't want it to be Muslim. We don't want it to be annihilated by some apocalyptic antichrist nuclear war. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we have a nuanced position, but also the Orthodox Church in Israel is persecuted and suffers. They just took one of the districts and turned it into like a gay district, took it from some Orthodox and Armenian Orthodox, which aren't the same as us, but regardless, it's very difficult. It's hard. There's not a good guy, bad guy, except that I would be against the Zionist position because I think it's an atheist socialist position.
So articulate the Zionist position. Now you brought it up. Like what does that mean? Because I think it's thrown around as a pejorative right now. You're a Zionist. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean?
Well, the original Zionist, like Moses Hess, like if you read his book, Roman Jerusalem, he's very explicit that he's not that religious. It's more like he says he's a Hegelian Spinoza guy. So he believes in like pantheism and he believes in dialectics. And he believed that the founding of a nation state of Israel would allow the world to be saved through political socialism. So he's not religious per se.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't outright deny God's existence, but he's like, this is really just
Close
about
enough.
Yeah. And then Herzl and Weizmann had very similar types of ideas. So the nation state is this geopolitical project. And if you go into the history of the Rothschilds, they weren't into it. They didn't want to be involved in politics. They originally wanted to buy some of the land from a Turkish sultan to have pilgrimage sites for Jews. But eventually it becomes more and more of a politicized project through the behest of Lord Milner and people, Balfour Declaration, all that in the British Empire. And so it becomes a very charged situation. And amongst the British establishment, you had the Arabophiles, which is a bunch of the spies like T.E. Lawrence, Gertrude Bell, St. John Philby. They were all super pro-Wahhabi, pro-Muslim.
Yeah.
Philby supposedly converted even to Wahhabism. And then you had this other side who were pro-Zionist, and that was like Lord Rothschild and I think Milner and some of the others. And so there was a split amongst the imperial establishment as to where to go with the nation state of Israel. So they came with this plan, which was supposed to be sort of a partition, dual state type of thing. And that ended up obviously not working out. I have a more conspiratorial take that I think they always wanted sort of a powder keg there.
Who always wanted that?
The sort of Milner Fabian socialists inner society of the British establishment. So you can read a book, Cecil Rhodes' Last Will and Testament, and he talks about all this. Like he's like, we're going to set up this new kind of Fabian socialist model world federation. That's kind of my theory about what's really going on in the world. But
you got to do it in the Alex Jones voice at that point.
The folks is Fabian socialists. Okay? They've got us all locked down. It's Fabian socialists. Lord Rothschild, Milner. They're all doing it all, folks. Unbelievable. But
my favorite is when he says "but."
But
Well, yeah, most of these, for the Orthodox position, which we think is obviously grounded in Scripture too. So I'm not just citing the Church Fathers, but they're an attestation to the attitude of the Church in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh centuries, and they're pretty unanimous. And I've read them extensively, especially on this topic as well, with in terms of eschatology. Like most of the Eastern Fathers are partial preterists when it comes to this topic of Matthew 24, Luke 21. And to a degree, Daniel 9 in the book of Revelation, although that's not as explicit. But that's because we see, at the first advent, Christ bringing a lot of the realities of the kingdom that most maybe evangelical premillennial types postponed to the end of the world. We think a lot of that was set up at the first advent. So, for example, in Matthew 21:43, in that parable, Jesus says, to the Jews, the kingdom of God will be taken from you and given to a nation producing the fruits thereof. That nation is the church, the new nation, which is, as Peter says in 1 Peter 2, you're a chosen nation, royal priesthood. Galatians 3, obviously, as you mentioned, but also Galatians 4, where Paul makes that allegory between the Jerusalem, which is below, and the heavenly Jerusalem, which is above, which is Mother Church, in our view. Hebrews 13, Paul says that we have an altar, and that whole context where he says that in Hebrews 13 is in the context of a Eucharistia or a feasting discourse. Yeah. He says, we have an altar that those that serve at the tabernacle have no right to eat. So we're eating the Eucharistic sacrifice at an altar in our perspective. That would mean that the church has to be, via Hebrews, the fulfillment of the type of what Israel was. Now, in relation to the Jews in general, most of the church fathers do not believe that there are no more Jews or that Jews are gone or that Judaism is a fake thing that doesn't exist. They believe with Romans 11 that there is a future conversion of the Jews. Right. We don't know when that will be. If it'll be 1,000 years from now, 10,000 years, we don't know that, but that is the patristic interpretation. And even some of the harshest...
Romans 11 is like kryptonite to a lot of people on the other side who don't want to look at Jews having any place whatsoever. I'm like, yes, but all these things are true, but you got to hit Romans 11 for perspective.
Even the most critical of like rabbinic Judaism of the church fathers still admit that, like St. Cyril of Alexandria or even St. John Chrysostom, like they still admit that there's a future conversion of the Jews. And we don't know how or when that will come about, but
Right.
that's Romans 11 is pretty clear about that.
Very clear.
Yeah.